Well, howdy there, everybody. Welcome back. Did you miss us? We hope so. After 3 long weeks, for which I do apologize. It's once again Skewsday, June 14th, 2022. I'm Trae Crowder, and that's Mark Agee. What's up, Mark?
What's up, Trae? Welcome back to the land of the free,
Uh,
away from the totalitarian hellscape that is the UK
That's
without
right.
their
Didn't see
automatic
one eagle
firearms.
over there.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Glad to
uh,
be here.
yeah. Welcome home, bud. You missed a lot.
I know.
Uh,
Well, I didn't really miss most of it because, like, we're so insane that it's also news over there, our insanity. So, like,
yeah,
they were talking about us the whole time, too. So, yeah, I was, availed of all the horror as it happened. Brian Fowler, look who's back again. Trae is back, and Mark, his friend. That's right. Yeah, we're here.
we're doing some M&M. I like it. So a couple things from today before we get started. Tonight's primary night in Maine, Nevada, North Dakota, and South Carolina. So if you forgot to vote, some of those states it's already too late, but you can also watch us on your phone if you want. If you want to go get in a ballot real quick, the race to watch. I'm keeping an eye on tonight is Nancy Mace versus Katie Arrington in South Carolina in a House primary because Nancy Mace is one of the few Republicans that voted to convict Trump, and immediately she's been in a second impeachment trial. She immediately
Hmm.
began groveling about it, but he still made it his mission in life to destroy her.
Of
She's
course.
the, she's the one who went to New York just to film a selfie video in front of Trump Tower, saying how awesome she thinks Trump is after she voted to impeach him. Um,
Jesus.
so yeah, early returns on that one is Mace is ahead, but only got 3% in. Um, the Senate did something. They have a gun bill which has 11 Republican votes so far, so you know it's probably terrible. Uh,
Hmm.
it doesn't do much. It restricts. I guess the Uvalde shooter had some sort of Hellfire trigger device that would have turned his gun fully automatic, although he didn't figure out how to use it because he just bought his guns like the day before. Um, so restrict that and has some incentives for states to enact red flag laws, which is an improvement marginally, but mostly it's more
Right.
money for cops. Which after Columbine, we put 10,000 cops in schools, and they have yet to stop one school shooting.
Hmm.
They have arrested a million kids for stuff like assault for throwing paper airplanes, so there's that. Um, also,
Yeah.
we got
Echo 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 Fritch on YouTube says that gun bill does fucking nothing except and then Matt took it down. Make them feel like they're doing something, I think. Anyway, yeah.
Yeah, they must have some polling that says that people want them to do something, so they're doing something. Republicans, I mean, I think they're like the Chris, what's his name from Connecticut? He cares deeply about this stuff, and he would have passed a better bill if they let him, but they're not going to let him. And Manchin and Cinema aren't going to vote to abolish the filibuster, so this is where we're at. Got another fun update on the Americans who went over to fight in Ukraine. Even the ones with combat experience apparently quit. Some of them faked injuries. One guy used a rock to break his gun. Said he couldn't fight anymore.
Yeah.
Basically,
Turns
uh,
out war is like shitty. It's not
yeah,
not cool. Like I thought this would be cool. I'd be over here, being a
yeah,
fucking freedom fighter doing my Call of Duty thing, but it's like these guys are mean. This is hard.
yeah,
I want to
yeah.
go I want to go back to America.
Do you ever watch? There's a great miniseries from the guy who did The Wire called "The Generation Kill."
Yeah, I know
Uh,
I missed that one. I know what it is. I always heard it was great, but I didn't watch it.
Yeah, Alexander Skarsgård in it. It's pretty
Mhm.
fucking. It's pretty good. But basically, it's about this group of Marine recon guys who are driving around Iraq trying to find a fight to get into in the first Iraq invasion. You can't find one, so they get really frustrated, bad. And anyway, there's a point where these guys really want to get in a fight, and their sergeant's yelling at him. He says, "Those those men have been sleeping out on the cold hard ground for 6 months waiting for this fight, and you pussies cry if you don't get a Pop Tart in your MRE." So and it reminded me of that. But yeah, so the Americans who went to fight in Ukraine basically all called their moms to come pick them up because it sucks. And some fun sports scandals. Jack Del Rio, who's now the Washington Commanders defensive coordinator, former coach
Uh-huh.
of Jacksonville Jaguars, went wild on Twitter
And the
saying January.
Raiders, former coach of the
Yeah,
Raiders too. Old Jack of the River. Yeah, he's got
yeah.
some interesting takes. What do you say this time?
Basically, January 6th was no big deal. He just called it a dust up outside the
Yeah.
Capitol. And then he was asked about it the next day by reporters. Said some more insane shit. Had to post one of those, notes app apologies. And then the head coach, Ron Rivera, who has been a public fight with his own players and coaches for the last year and a half, 2 years, because he's a cancer survivor, is immunocompromised.
Yeah.
He's just begging his players to get vaccinated, and they all told him to fuck off. And then so he's get Jack Del Rio. What he did was he fined Jack Del Rio $100,000 and gave it to the Capitol Police Fund. So that hit. And then the Orioles are involved in a weird scandal that involves country music. Apparently, the owner has been incapacitated by medical issues, and his two dipshit sons are in a legal fight over who's going to control the franchise. And one filed a lawsuit against his brother and his mom, saying that they are running the team into the ground in order to benefit their country music investments, because they've been trying to move. They want to move the team to Nashville, and have also been using their connect. Like the brother's being sued. His wife is a country music manager, and they've been using the ballpark to like use all their artists do post game concerts and national anthem and stuff. So that's wild. Country music corruption is fun.
Oh yeah. Okay. Well, shit. All right. Well, hey, let's get into it. With us, as always, is producer Matt. He is here. This is Weekly Skews. I want to remind you of a couple things, of course. Number one, if you're vaccinated and want to see me live, you could go to TraeCrowder.com. I'm embarking on a solo stand-up tour this summer, starting next week in Ohio, and a lot of other places after that. I'm doing longer sets, brand new material. It's going to be fun. I hope you come out and see me. Go to TraeCrowder.com. Get you tickets now. Number two, if you enjoy this here program and would like to show your support, you can do so by signing up on Patreon. $5 a month, you get full-length bonus episodes like the one we recorded last week on all the truly unforgivable bullshit that came out in the wake of the horrific Texas shooting. You get immediate access to the whole slate of bonus episodes we've already done and all the ones we're planning to do in the future. So if you're into that, go to weeklyskews.com/more, or you can just look me up on Patreon, sign up, get some more skews in your life. We sure would appreciate it. Now, as for the show tonight, what better subject for our glorious return than the hot new true crime series that's gripping the nation? The January 6th committee hearings. We've had 2 episodes so far, a lot of storylines getting set up, some betrayals, some twists and turns, a lot of interesting characters, some of whom are drunk. It's a wild show and promises to get wilder, so we're going to talk about it. But first, after the past few weeks, we've definitely got some dumbasses for you, so let's get started there, as usual, with the Daily Dumbass. Matt, graphic, please. Tonight's DD, anyone who thinks the Native Americans wouldn't gladly do it all again for the glory of Jesus Christ. That's right. Here's Republican gubernatorial candidate in Georgia, Candace Taylor, reminding everybody what's really important where the Indians are concerned. Matt, play it. If you got it. Play them if you got them, Matt. What's going on? Here we go.
First Amendment right, which is our right to worship Jesus freely. That's why we have a country. That's why we have Georgia. That's why we had our founding fathers come over here and destroy American Indians' homes and their land. They took it. Look at what they went through, Native Americans, for sacrifice, for us to have the freedom we have today. The first.
Yeah, I love the perfect fascist logic of this. It's like these people had to be oppressed for us to have our freedoms.
Right.
Rarely do you see it put so succinctly. And this Candace lost the primary, thank God. Wait, they haven't had their. Yeah, they have had their primary. Yeah, Georgia has. She got 3% of the vote, and she's still an active elementary school teacher. So people who heard about critical race theory, well, she's going around and telling kids that the Native Americans were glad to be massacred because today we have prayer in schools or something. I don't know. It's fucking stupid.
Yeah, that sucks. I'm sorry, I got a technical issue. Of course we do, after a few weeks off. Something's wrong with the Facebook feed. It's apparently not working. So I'm going to post a link on there for them, but a lot of people won't see it. This is really unfortunate, but I don't know what to do about it. Sorry. Just a second here. I'll post it afterwards, and I'll post the video afterwards. Sorry, everybody. This is a nightmare.
You remind me of one time on my wife's birthday, we were gonna like go down to Santa Monica and rent some bikes and bar hop along the boardwalk. And she had trouble finding people, just freaking out over not having no bikes to rent. So this is a fiasco, and I was like, okay, let's dial it down.
Yeah. Matt, I don't know if you can. You probably can't. But if there's a way to like I don't know, retry just the Facebook link or something in the streaming part. If you can like click that on and off or something without restarting the whole thing, then try that. But you probably can't. I'm just saying. Okay. So anyway, yeah, she's a lunatic. It's a very, like you said, it's a very like conservative thing to say. It's like it acknowledges the genocide of
Hmm.
the Native Americans, but in a way that's like, but it's worth it because we have vacation Bible school and everything. And
Yeah.
really, that's what the Indians would have wanted. Um,
Yeah. I
so
mean,
yeah,
when you chalk everything up to being God's plan, you ended up in some pretty horrific places. Because you end up being the person who's on the news after the tornado wipes out your whole neighborhood, being like, "I'm just glad God spared us." But what about the 50 people He didn't spare? Yeah,
right.
it's like, you're God's special hero, and everyone else deserves to die. It's like it's one of those. Uh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So what do we got next? Our honorable mentions. Yeah, any liberal out there who doesn't understand that the real answer to our gun problem is just more karate. If you don't believe me, take it from certified badass Sean Hannity, who breaks it all down right here.
And, for example, I have said to people, and they think Hannity doesn't know what the hell he's talking about when it comes to martial arts. At close range, if I'm dealing with a gun that is pointed at me right here, where I can go like this and strip it, literally break the guy's finger, strip the gun, step back, tap, rack, and do 4/3, I'd rather do that. If somebody points it at my forehead, okay, I'll duck, I'll push it up, I'll jam it back, break his finger, and jam it into them. Then I'll strip it, step back, tap it, rack it, and I'll do 4/3 there. Same if I put a gun at my back, I'll get the gun offline, fight the man, strip the gun, break his finger, step back, tap, rack, 4/3. That's something we do regularly.
Someone please pull a gun on Sean Hannity to prove to see if he can do
I
this
know,
shit.
right? Yeah, I would love to see how he would actually react to such
Yeah.
a scenario. Like,
Every one of these guys is Mark Wahlberg saying 9/11 wouldn't have went down if it
yeah,
was on one of those planes.
right. I know they all think that they're all like action movie heroes in their head, and that the only thing that went wrong with any of these tragedies is that they were not there,
Yeah.
to stop it.
Yeah, it's like it's going back to being God's special protagonist. It's like that would never happen to me because I wouldn't let it. It's like when Kanye said slavery was voluntary because they had a slave mentality. It's like, what the fuck? It's like, what are you even talking about, man? Like sometimes bad shit happens, and the children's karate black belt that the Sean Hannity guy is not going to protect them in a gunfight. I don't know. But he can keep thinking it, I guess, if he wants to. Also, he tapes his basement studio and he never leaves his house in like Martha's Vineyard or wherever. So, yeah, there you go.
Yep, there you go, indeed. All right, our next honorable mention for Daily Dumbass is Elon Musk for not simply powering his cars with the ultimate renewable resource, fetuses. Yeah, that's right. Hear from this crazy lady. Here we go, getting it pulled up here.
Inconvenient. Human persons, from their earliest days, poisoned in the womb and dismembered, torn limb from limb. Bodies thrown in medical waste bins and in places like Washington, D.C., burned to power the lights of the city's homes and streets. Let that image sink in with you for a moment. The
No.
next time you turn on your light, think of the incinerators. Think of what we're doing to ourselves so callously and so numbly.
Shut up, man.
So DC is powered by the incinerated fetuses of the aborted. Like
I'm
that's
glad you
what the
asked,
street
Trae.
lights. That's what's powering
Yeah.
the street lights in Washington D.C.
I'm glad you asked, Trae, because absolutely fucking not. That is apparently a conspiracy theory talking point that she's picked up. Remember we talked a couple weeks ago about those people got caught with having fetuses in their house they'd stolen from a Planned
Yes.
Parenthood?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that organization jump-started this conspiracy theory. And I'm not quite sure how you would pick another form of biological matter. Can you burn a deer carcass for... it doesn't make any sense. You could like compost a dead baby, then maybe it gives off enough methane to power like because landfill waste gives off methane for electricity. So maybe like I don't know, but like anyway, you've wondered if she's crazy or stupid. I'm gonna go with just power hungry. Her name's Catherine Glenn Foster. She's a graduate of Georgetown Law School who makes $190,000 a year as president of the Americans United for Life, one of the largest anti-abortion nonprofits in the country. So yeah, she's out there spouting insane bullshit for her own power, which is a theme we run into a lot in American
Oh
politics.
yeah, no, it's good. Yeah, it's good work if you can get it, man. It's it can be pretty lucrative for sure. You just really gotta up the crazy to break through the den of lunacy, but it can be done. Yeah, but it's wild. I don't know. I can't like saying that, and she's like in Congress, right? Saying that in like a congressional hearing, like there's so many things you could say that are not DC's power grid is based on, incinerated fetuses or whatever. I feel like that would make most people go, wait, what was that last part? Like, I just sitting there thinking, like, I'm not really listening to what she's saying now because I keep circling back to that other thing that she said because that was pretty wild, right? Like,
Yeah,
yeah.
I just like to imagine there's a guy out there who believes her, and because gas prices are so high right now, he's just trying to jam a dead fetus into his gas tank, just like smushing it in there. What? Like, yeah, I don't know what these people's understanding of. I mean, obviously she's smarter than she's pretending to be, but like, let's take her at face level for a moment. Like, it's fucking stupid. Like, if you actually think that abortion is murdering a baby, what does the baby being used to make electricity afterwards have to do with anything? That's the least bad part of it.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Our next honorable mention is whoever it is in the Illuminati who's poisoning the water supply because they forgot to take into account the fact that Alex Jones is never going to forget how big his
love
dad's
this one.
dick is.
Yeah.
Does this to humans as well. That's why genitals, I don't care if you're black or white, are
All right.
a third the size they were of a 1960s male. So the media makes jokes about that a few months ago when I gave the example of, if your daddy's Johnson was a foot long, yours is 6 inches long. And if yours was 6 inches, your son will be 3 inches. And the one with them won't even have a penis. We can make jokes about that all day long, but this isn't a game.
It's not a
You can say,
game,
okay,
guys.
well, who cares? Well, we're sterilized. And the sperm counts are down 96%.
All right, we did a whole episode on Tucker Carlson's like world masculinity thing a while back. Like we talked about sperm counts are down. No one really knows why, but like I try to get to the bottom of this like dicks are getting smaller thing. I couldn't find any reputable source that says that. Like there is a conspiracy theory on the internet, but I just love that Alex Jones is like, you guys, you got to listen. My dad's dick was huge,
Right. Yeah.
and my dick is only half the size.
Yeah, right, exactly. It's like, my dad's dick was made. I look at mine and I'm like, this must be the globalist. Yeah, it's only one possible explanation for me having this small dick, and that's, Jews putting stuff in the water or whatever it is that, he thinks is happening. Yeah, the sperm count thing, right, that is like, that's legitimate, but isn't it probably to do with like either all the fucking microplastics or our shitty diets and a combination of all that? It's just like the whole world we live in is just kind of worse in a lot of ways for us. So it's not globalist with frog enzymes or whatever's going on. I don't think.
We wear tighter underwear, tighter jeans. We keep cell phones in our pockets next to our balls, and we sit with laptops on top of our laps, cooking our test.
Right.
There's lots of things you can go through, and the government's trying to shrink our dicks. But I did find something pretty interesting when I googled around. They did a big study where they actually measured guys' dicks, and because previously it had all been self-reported.
Yeah, I feel like there's some flaws with the structure of that particular study.
Yeah, when they went from actually measuring guys' dicks, just asking them how big they are, they all shrunk an inch. It's absolutely amazing. Yeah. So that's really more of what happened.
That's hilarious. Can't believe
Yeah,
anybody.
It also
I see no problems with that.
I found a guy who like an art history guy who'd been asked why the dicks were so small in ancient Greek statues. And apparently in ancient Greece, it was considered more refined to have a small dick. Like having a big dick was associated with being stupid and uncouth. So that's why
like a donkey or something.
Yeah,
right.
That's why Michelangelo's David he's Alex Jones.
Well, how about that? I never heard that before. But it would be, dude, those statues would be much wilder if they were all just like just flopping big hogs all over the place. You know what I mean? Those classical Greek statues, they just had like massive wieners. It would have a different feel. I feel like it'd be hard to take them quite as seriously, you know? So I think that was a good artistic choice. Good
Yeah.
job, Bernini.
Yeah. Way to go, Michelangelo.
Yeah.
Not setting unrealistic body image, except for the abs.
Yeah. All right. So, okay, what we got next? This hospital for not creating a separate porn-free internet. This is wild shit here.
What role does providing hardcore pornography to your teenagers age 13 and above play in providing other resources? And how many clicks does it take to get from your page to hardcore pornography videos?
I guess I address this through the chair, Chairman
He has
Jester.
no idea what the fuck this guy's talking about.
I have to admit, I'm a bit confused.
Me too. Me too.
Representative Click, what is the question exactly? Is this pertaining to the witness's testimony?
This is pertaining to the gender information care provided through Nationwide Children's Hospital, and it takes, I provide this to the chair to do with as she pleases. She wants to distribute it or not, that's up to her discretion. But it only takes 3 to 5 clicks to get from your gender affirmation webpage to hardcore pornography and talking about things that I will not mention in this committee. And I just want to know, I mean, you talk about standards of care,
All right, you cut it, Matt.
medical evidence.
So that guy's named Gary Click, and if he's been a prominent dumbass before, there's no record of it because mostly, if you could search his name, just find him getting roasted for this. So he's talking to an executive at a director of a hospital about their gender affirmation care because like Ohio is about trying to pass a bunch of anti-trans legislation, which we'll get to in a second. But what he's referring to, and this is actually pretty funny, the hospital's webpage has a subpage which is about their gender affirmation care, and on that website, they have links to a bunch of care organizations who will help people who are trying to figure out if they want to transition and whether they need support groups and all that kind of stuff. One of those groups has a separate subpage on their webpage because they're sex positive that links to like one of the ways to support themselves, I think, is by having like a promo code at like a sex toy shop. So he clicked through 4 or 5 times to find a vendor connected to a separate nonprofit that's connected to the hospital that's selling dildos. So he was looking around for some Oppo information, ended up dildo shopping on an unrelated website, and is now blaming the hospital director for him having to steal dildo.
Yeah. This dildo shows up in the mail, and his wife's like, "What's this about?" And he's like, "It's that damn children's hospital." That's who did this.
This guy, so a Democrat named Daniel Trae, he told the newspaper he's disappointed by his questioning and didn't understand why I'd been asked. I suppose if I go on the internet and click on Donald Trump, I'm probably 2 or 3 away from Stormy Daniels. I don't know where this stuff is going to take me. This is a pretty good own. The last president literally fucked a porn star. It's a much more direct connection to the problem of pornography than this hospital.
Right. It's also it's the internet. You know what I mean? Like, how far removed are you ever from porn on the internet? You know what I mean? It's always right there. And if if you're looking for, you're not going to get like, I don't know. Everybody knows it. We all know where it's at. You know how to get to it. And I guarantee you this guy knows how to get to it too.
You were just in England, so I'm sure you know this story, but there's a guy, like a member of parliament, that just had to resign because he got caught looking at pornography on the floor of the House of Commons. Mm-hmm. And what he did, he was looking at tractors because they were debating an agriculture bill. And I guess it's a combine harvester called the Dominator. Mm-hmm. So the first time he Googled Dominator, he ended up on a porn site by accident, rapidly closed it. But they were like,
wait a minute.
Then he opened it back up and looked at it some more. So the first time was purely by accident. The second time, he was like, I will look at this tractor board, baby. Yeah. So, this is akin to that. It's like, yeah, man, don't go. The internet's not for everybody. Stay off of it if you don't want to see naked people. So the bill they're talking about, and I think it's important to talk about this because the targeting of trans people is like escalating at a rapid rate. Like, it's becoming an organizing principle for like all of Americans fascists in a way that's really scary to me because trans people are a very small number of people.
Right.
if the rest of us don't say, hey, fuck off with this shit, it's going to get worse and worse and worse until a lot of them get killed. And speaking of which, 31 members of Patriot Front were arrested in Idaho this weekend for conspiracy to riot because they were going to smash up a pride parade in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, which a pride parade in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, I imagine has like 35 people at it. So the 31 people with clubs would have been a formidable adversary. There's a pretty funny story came out of this. One kid's mom saw him at the riot and kicked him out of the house.
Yeah, of course he lives with his mom. You know what I mean? Like, these dudes are all like basement dwellers and whatnot. I also saw people put up like the pictures, the mug shots of all of them, and like how positively Cro-Magnon a lot of them look. They look like generated, like barbarian characters or something in a video game. But yeah, no, it is scary that this is becoming such a thing. Because perhaps naively, I had thought that like, until trans people, not until they came along, they've always been here, but until they became the focus of their ire, I had thought for a while there that even they were sort of moving beyond caring all that much about gay people, like fucking Peter Thiel, who sucks, but that when he was at the RNC and, said, I'm gay, and he got cheers instead of boo, like that type of shit, I was thinking, I was like, okay, well, maybe at least they're done with all that, which was very stupid of me. But yeah, then they found out about trans people, I guess, and it's just reignited the whole thing. And it's definitely frightening. Like you said, they're not. Yeah, I mean, it's it would be fucking scary seeing this shit. As if they haven't had to deal with enough already for their entire lives. Now they're becoming the preferred target of the just worst people this country has to offer. It's pretty shitty.
Yeah, and we're going to be talking a little bit later during January 6th stuff about the Federalist Society's fascist work versus the QAnon psychopaths, and they're not actually the dividing line's not actually that big, right? But one thing these brown shirts do is move the Overton window far enough to where when the Supreme Court overturns gay marriage next year or whatever, it won't seem like that radical of a thing to do because it'll be well, that's better than these guys who are murdering trans people in the street, right? And so what the Ohio guy was debating is a bill. Do you have a bill to ban trans male to female trans kids from playing high school sports? It's a bit ridiculous, the specifics of the bill. The opponent's parents can challenge the gender of a kid in a team, and then the kid has to prove that the gender they say they are. And one of the ways they're going to do that is literally by fingering your kid. They're going to have an OBGYN check your kid's genitals to see if you have a uterus. So that's
what the fuck, dude.
They're going to forcibly penetrate your kid to protect the integrity of high school girls volleyball.
Sports, yeah, right. It's so insane.
And just talk about we talked about this stuff, and this is the only thing I've really gotten a lot of angry emails about, messages from viewers of this. Well, I wouldn't want my daughters to lose her spot. Sports, most sports are not pro sports. Pro sports is the only level of sports where something's really at stake, and only 0.00001% of us play that level of sports. The rest of us are out there running around to get exercise. That's why high schools have division. They have A, AA, AAA. It's to keep the level of competition even. That's why we have under 6 foot basketball. That's why we have slow pitch softball leagues. We're just trying to keep the competition where people can have fun. And in all of Ohio, they found one kid who's made a female trans play in high school sports. This bill is aimed specifically at one kid who plays high school softball. And here's a direct quote from her. She plays backup catcher and backup first baseman. And she says, I'm not some big, strong 6 foot guy pretending to be a girl here and taking over softball teams and winning championships. I barely even get to play because I'm not great. She just likes playing softball. That's it.
It's also funny. It's literally one person. It's this bill is called the Fuck Amber in Particular Act of 2022. It's it's got to be a wild feeling to have your state legislature, passing a bill aimed literally just at you, not in theory, but in practice. You're the only person who's going to be affected by this piece of legislation that's going through your state house right now. That shit's crazy.
Yeah, it reminds me of the old David Tell bit about there being so many white supremacists in Alaska, even though it's all white people. It's a bunch of guys sitting around we got to get Eric.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, you want to get into it?
Yeah, let's get into it.
All right, so day 2 of the January 6th hearings were yesterday, and we talked about day 1 on a Patreon episode that we taped on Friday. And day 2 actually had the much more compelling, I think, evidence, even though day 1 had more cinematic stuff because they showed a lot of footage from the January 6th. I also have come to the conclusion I like the fact they're calling it the January 6th Commission because January 6th is the news hook for this, but a lot of the other shit Trump was up to was much more sinister and much more impactful as far as when it came close to overturning the election. But for funsies, let's start with Fox News' summary of the day's events yesterday.
The other thing that comes out of this hearing is that there's a lot of really brave and courageous figures here, Bill Barr being one of them. The system actually worked to some extent, but it depends who you're trying to convict. And I think that so far they're trying to convict Donald Trump of being a terrible person.
Thanks to all of you.
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah. That is sort of the mission statement here. You know, he did some terrible shit. We're trying to illustrate that. And this guy's just like, this just feels like they're trying to make Donald Trump out to be a bad guy or something. It's like, I respect the proceedings here. I think they're doing a great job. It's just, is that really what they're trying to do? Come on. It's like, I don't understand what this guy thinks is supposed to be happening or whatever. Like, what's he think he's watching if it's not, the crimes of Donald Trump?
I'm gonna push back on that guy saying Bill Barr did a great job and was a big hero. Absolutely fucking not. We'll get to that in a little bit. But there were basically 4 big themes out of yesterday. And yesterday was like trying to make the case that like Trump knew the election was fair, and so they're treating this much more like a criminal proceeding than I would do. It feels like they're making that hearing specifically was for Merrick Garland, because to the public, Trump's state of mind, his mens rea, his criminal culpability doesn't matter. It doesn't matter to the public who's deciding whether to vote for him in 2024, whether he's dangerous because he's stupid and crazy or whether he's dangerous because he's a power mad psychopath. The idea just that he's dangerous is enough. So I don't know if we really need to get into like his state of mind, but yesterday was all about that. But yesterday had 4 big takeaways. That Trump's inner circle was divided into 2 big camps. Bill Stepien, who is on this side, called him Team Normal versus Team Crazy. I don't accept that framing. I think they're all fucking evil, and there's different varieties of it. The other one was Trump became detached from reality. Bill Barr said over and over again that Trump got crazier and crazier after the election day. The third thing was, we're going to talk about in a minute, is Trump defrauded his followers out of $250 million that no one really knows where it went except into his pockets. And the fourth one, the really fun one, is that Rudy Giuliani was fucking hammered most of the time. So if we get to the next video, Matt, this is Liz Cheney's opening statement. She led with it from the top.
Campaign experts on election night, and instead followed the course recommended by an apparently inebriated Rudy Giuliani to just claim he won and insist that the vote counting stop, to falsely claim everything was fraudulent.
That came. They should more testimony to this on this later. Jason Miller, who I think runs Gab now, one of those social media knockoffs, was a White House advisor. January 6th committee lawyer. Was there anyone in that conversation, in your estimation, had too much to drink? Jason Miller. Rudy Giuliani. I think he was definitely intoxicated. And so Rudy didn't like that. He went on a Twitter rage today, and he said, let me read this tweet because it's fucking funny. I am disgusted and outraged at the outright lie by Jason Miller and Bill Stepien. I was upset they were not prepared for the massive cheating, as well as other lawyers around the president. I refused all alcohol that evening. I had my favorite drink, Diet Pepsi.
Bullshit. Does anybody believe it? It's like that's the easiest thing to believe out of all of this that's come out. It's like that Rudy Giuliani was hammered that night. And it's also funny. It's how frustrating that had to be for and I agree with you. Everybody that was in this room is to some degree a piece of shit, but it's wild that there's like still lines in the sand for these people. You know what I mean? Which I'm glad there are, but it's wild to think about the other guys who are in there and trying to tell Trump like that this is just what's happening. Okay. And, there's still more votes to be counted. We don't know yet. We just got to wait and see, yada, yada. And then Rudy Giuliani's just like, fuck that. Just say you won. It's like, just go out there and just take it, man. What are they going to do? You're the fucking guy, just tell them like, nah, we got this. And, and Trump, and then watching Trump sit there and be like, yeah, this guy's making a lot of sense, just watch him listening to that fucking dude over everybody else. But of course, it's like it makes all the sense in the world because Rudy Giuliani was the one who was telling him the thing that he wanted to hear, which is like sort of his whole deal. He's very much one of those, he needs sycophants around it. Like whatever he wants to hear is the thing that, he's going to go with regardless of what is actually true. But it's so wild to think of a drunken Rudy Giuliani with that fucking poop colored hair dye, dripping down his face or whatever, being the sort of like primary catalyst for the greatest, fucking insurrectionist conspiracy theory in the history of our country, that it all like started that night with that hammered lunatic is it's just what a fucking timeline that we live in.
I don't know if you know about, remember much about Jason Miller, but a few years ago, he had an affair during the first Trump campaign with she was a campaign aide who went on to be like one of those CNN pro-Trump talking heads. And she got pregnant. And she accused him of trying to put RU-486 in her breakfast smoothie to get rid of the baby. And anyway, that comes up because Giuliani was tweeting out that news story today, apropos of nothing. Which is so funny because this guy tried to fucking poison his mistress to, in their mind, murder an unborn baby. And they had no problem with it until he snitched that Rudy was drunk on election.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
Watching all these people destroy each other is pretty fucking funny.
Right.
Talking about the scam. So apparently Trump fundraised they sent people 25 emails a day. And collected $100 million in the week following the election and got $250 million total in small dollar donations from his campaign. From a fake, Stop the Steal, he called it, but the money just went straight into Trump's campaign accounts. There's never any separate fund.
Yeah, correct me if I'm wrong. Wasn't that like pretty apparent at the time that like, I feel like I remember us talking about that, putting up like a screenshot of the website where they were fundraising from and all this stuff. And it was like, you could tell that it was horse shit or like just a big time grift from the beginning. Like a lot of this stuff, it needs to be reiterated. I'm not criticizing them for bringing it up, but I'm saying a lot of this shit is like confirmation of things that, a lot of us knew already, or at least had assumed.
For sure. I mean, we definitely suspected and we talked about it because they made the same point we did over a year ago, which is like, if you really think there's all this fraud, you took all this money to fight it, why aren't you spending any money fighting the fraud? Like, where's the money being spent? And the answer is nobody. Like they gave $1 million of them went to charity ran by Mark Meadows, and of that $1 million, 500,000 went to pay the yearly salary of the guy that's director of it. 200 grand of it went to Trump hotels, I guess, to rent out their own hotel rooms to complain about how the election was stolen. And $60,000 of it went to John Jr.'s girlfriend because she spoke at January 6th rally for 2 minutes. She got paid $400 a minute to talk and say, I don't know what you did, but you definitely danced backstage, because it reminded me of this video from January 6th when they're all having a really good time.
This is look, that's from January 6th.
Yeah, backstage where Trump's talking.
Turn it off, Matt.
Oh yeah, music. Yeah, I forgot. We get music with us. If you guys, our Patreon got taken down for a few hours. We had to cut out because we talked about some music videos that were directed by one of the guys who testified about his documentary from the January 6th Commission on Thursday. Directed some classic rap videos, which we stupidly showed because I'm an idiot and got our video taken down. So the news out of that is the FEC, our Toothless Election Regulation Organization, apparently flipped past the January 6th Commission and said, we should check into that, and just asked Trump politely today for if he could tell us to say where that $250 million went. I'm expecting forthright honesty.
Yeah, right. I'm sure he'll come through with that immediately. Nothing but transparency across the board when it comes to his financials. But I did I don't know. Do you think, like, again, the idea that there was these two factions even within the Trump camp, and it's like even in that administration at that stage of the game, because he ran through a lot of people, like so many people got thrown under the bus, and it felt like it just they just got dumber and crazier as it went on because anybody that had any semblance of sanity couldn't survive in there, right? But you get to this point in the election, and you have a faction of people saying things that are real but still being on the Trump team. It's wild to me how I don't know how you reconcile the two if you're that person, but also I'm wondering like if there can't be many of those people left around him at this point, right? Like in the aftermath of all this, like surely he's excised any semblance of rational advice or anything in favor of the Rudy Giuliani's of the world. Like it's probably all that's left around him.
All right, so now's a good time to talk about the bow tie law school fascists versus the QAnon crazy hat fascists. All right, they're on the same team. The bow tie guys get upset when the QAnon guys make them look crazy. It's not Team Normal versus Team Crazy. It's Team Regular Fascist you could have a martini with versus the guy who can't shut the fuck up about Jewish space lasers. All right.
Right.
And you like, so the thing that I think reason I talked about up top, why they probably shouldn't have called the January 6th commissions, because like January 6th was the least, it was the most dangerous part, and it was violent, and a couple people got killed. It's not the most dangerous part to American democracy. The most dangerous part to American democracy was the plot out in the open to have state legislatures send rival slates of electors to certify the election that Trump won, even though Trump had lost those states, which is a lot of Republicans think is constitutional for them to do, and they will try that again. The Supreme Court is probably going to be ruling on whether you can do that. So that's the most dangerous part, I think, and I hope they get to the bottom of that. They're supposed to have some testimony from guys who were organizing the electors and from some of the fake electors, and I hope those guys get some criminal culpability and they roll on up the ladder. But that brings me back to you do not have to hand it to Bill Barr, because like when you talk about the bow tie fascists, like they're still making the election was fraudulent claims, but not about fake ballots and not about Chinese paper and Chinese bamboo and all that shit, and the Italy using Hugo Chavez's military machines and Italian satellites and all that stuff's fucking insane. But they do believe that Pennsylvania expanding mail balloting without direct authorization in writing from the state legislature, even though the legislature had handed that power over to the agencies, the Secretary of State, to decide however they want to run the election. In the middle of a pandemic, they decided to do more mail voting. That's within their rights to do. They're saying because the legislature didn't approve that directly, the whole election was fraudulent and can throw out that state's electors. A lot of them believe that. There was a guy on TV yesterday who was ran out of the Republican Party for being pro-gun control, who was still defending his vote to throw out Pennsylvania electors on that premise, right? So that brings me to Bill Barr. Bill Barr is definitely on the side that says that Pennsylvania's electors and, I don't know, maybe Arizona's and Georgia's now should have been thrown out because they didn't meet the strict requirements specifically by the letter of the law, even though the spirit of the law is trying to get everyone's vote counted, right? Spirit of the law, get everyone's vote counted, even in the middle of a pandemic, right? So that's why you do not have to fucking hand it to Bill Barr. So he's annoyed by being associated with the craziness of Rudy Giuliani. He's absolutely fine with the craziness of the Neil Gorsuch and Brett Kavanaugh and Sam Alito, who absolutely would have thrown out those electors. They actually did throw out Pennsylvania's elect. They I don't know if you remember, the Supreme Court intervened constitutionally. Federal judges aren't supposed to overrule a state court about state constitutional issues. Pennsylvania Supreme Court said it's fine. The Supreme Court took the case away from them, said no, it's not fine. You can't count mail-in ballots if they're not dated or if they come in after Election Day. So what Pennsylvania did to protect the integrity of the election was they put all those ballots in a separate pile. And once all the ballots the Supreme Court said could be counted were counted, they just didn't bother counting the ones they didn't want to argue about them anymore because the margin was too big for it to change anything. So a bunch of people did get disenfranchised by the Supreme Court because no one wanted to argue about it anymore because the election was over. Right? That did happen. Right. So yeah.
And no, but Bill Barr, like he just the fact, like any kind of lionizing of that guy, I'm not here for either, because also, like we talked about it before, like he's saying all this shit now, but he was there the whole time and just like didn't say anything to anybody. He might have, fucked off or whatever, but he didn't, where was he at when this was actually happening? And then, months later, he's got a book coming out or whatnot, and now he's under subpoena and whatnot. So he's like saying it, but I'm not going to jerk this dude off for any of that. And also, we talked on the Patreon episode we did, we're talking about Mike Pence and how it's like he's getting a little bit of the hero treatment from this process too. It's like that Mike Pence held the line or whatever and acted actually presidential and all this shit. But as we were saying, it's like that old Chris Rock bit where it's like, that's what you're supposed to do. Like all you did was what you're supposed to, your duty, like you want a fucking cookie just for not overthrowing the government. You're not supposed to overthrow the government, like fuck Mike Pence. I mean,
Also,
I'm glad he did what he did as opposed to the alternative, but still, like, yeah, fuck him.
Mike, like we always act like these guys were drafted into these jobs. We didn't.
Right.
Nobody forced Mike Pence to be vice president. He campaigned for the job literally three times. He campaigned to get Trump's approval to get the spot. Then he campaigned with Trump to get Trump elected. Then he campaigned with Trump to get Trump elected again. You knew what what you were doing. You called up to a dangerous psychopath. In fact, you did the bare minimum one day after being a bad actor for fucking 6 years. Doesn't mean shit to me. And also, like, it reminds me, like, the coverage the night Trump won, when nobody thought he was going to win, and Melania didn't want him to win, and Karen Pence didn't want him to win. And there's a famous quote where Karen Pence turns to her husband and says, "Well, you got what you fucking wanted, Mike." So this is what he got. But anyway, so going back to the bow tie guy assholes, like one thing that's really telling to me about where we're at as a country is one of the witnesses that the committee call is a guy named Ben Ginsberg. Ben Ginsberg was the lead counsel for the Bush campaign in 2000 and 2004. He led the recount effort in Florida in 2000, which we'll come back to that in a second. Yesterday, he said all the right things. This election wasn't close. There was no fraud, and if there was a few votes miscounted or little bit of fraud here and there for somebody voting wasn't supposed to, the margins were so large it wouldn't have mattered.
Right.
But again, that's the QAnon fascist take. Ben Ginsberg, when he was head counsel for the Bush campaign, they were trying to get the Florida state legislature, because the recount was dragging on past the safe harbor date. They were trying to get the Florida state legislature to just go ahead and appoint electors to give it to Bush. This is the same play that Trump was trying to run. So all they're mad about is going beyond the bow tie fascist shit. That's all they're mad about.
Right. They're totally willing to like exploit any kind of technicalities or loopholes or whatever they can find that, like you said, ignore the spirit of the fucking concept of democracy. People, should vote, and their vote should be counted. Like they'll throw all that completely aside if they have something like they can hang their hat on legally that they can twist into making it make some sort of sense. And they're like, we ain't got to bring fucking Hugo Chavez and all that shit into it. It's like, why are you guys acting crazy about this coup we're attempting here? Like, can we not just do it by the book? Can we do a by the book coup? Why we got to do a fucking crazy coup, guys? And that's like what the argument is about amongst Republicans right now.
Yeah, if anything, the violent mob set back their efforts.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So anyway, the one funny thing that we'll give Bill Barr too is, remember we talked about that 2,000 Mules documentary a couple weeks ago?
Yeah, Dinesh D'Souza.
Yeah, so this happened in the testimony yesterday.
And I haven't seen anything since the election that changes my mind on that, including the 2,000 Mules movie.
He really hit for himself there. That's awesome.
2,000 Mules, and people are talking about that.
You can cut off that. So this is so anyway, I don't understand. I hope watching Lynn Cheney and how compelling she is, because she's so fucking mad, would help the Democrats understand everything they're doing wrong. She still seems the maddest in those hearings.
Yeah, Liz Cheney.
Yeah. So why can the Democrats get that level of mad? And yes, we talked about it on Friday. It bugs me that they're using the most high profile hearings in 50 years to turn Liz Cheney into a star.
Right.
But she is a more effective communicator than they are. And another podcast that I listen to says Liz Cheney feels like she'd chase Donald Trump to the gates of hell. That's how fucking mad she is at him. And that part does hit for me, even though, again, she sucks. She threw her own sister under the bus for being gay. She would vote to make her sister's marriage illegal.
Right.
She's a bad person. Don't like her.
No.
Anyway, she dropped this video today, and I found it interesting, and we can wrap this segment up after this.
Matt says 1 second. He's pulling up. Remember, go to 118 in the video, Matt, when you pull it up. But yeah, this is, she put this statement out on social media.
Yeah. I think tomorrow's hearing, it was supposed to be hearing tomorrow. I think they might have had to move it for some reason. I think Bill Stepien is supposed to testify about his wife into labor or some shit. So I'm not sure what's going on with that. But yeah, let's talk about what's coming up in the next set of hearings.
Of the gravity of these issues, here is a clip of one of President Trump's own White House lawyers, Eric Hirschman, who talked to Mr. Eastman the day after January 6th.
John Eastman is one of Trump's crazy lawyers.
It was the day after. Eastman, I don't remember why he called me, or he texted me or called me, wanted to talk with me, and he said he couldn't reach others. And he started to ask me about something dealing with Georgia and preserving something potentially for appeal. And I said to him, "Are you out of your effing mind?" Right? I said, I only want to hear 2 words coming out of your mouth from now on. Orderly transition.
Which didn't happen.
I said, I don't want to hear any other effing words coming out of your mouth, no matter what, other than orderly transition. Repeat those words to me. And I screamed at him. Eventually he said, orderly transition. I said, good, John. Now I'm going to give you the best free legal advice you're ever getting in your life. Get a great effing criminal defense lawyer. You're going to need it. And then I hung up on him.
All right. That must have felt really good to say to John Eastman.
Yeah.
I love to say it. I want to say something cool. It's like that's the lawyer equivalent when Marshawn Lynch said, "I ain't about that talk, about that action, homie."
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Matt,
yeah.
Matt, you can, like, if you want to put some comments and stuff up there, you can. But anyway, go ahead, Mark. I was going to ask you what you think's coming up. Oh yeah, CC What's New on YouTube says, smash that like button, folks. Thank you for reminding me. Like and share and all that stuff. We appreciate it. But yeah, just how you're feeling about these generally in terms of like the possible impact or whatever, and like, are you optimistic about these actually leading to something? Finally, I
think I said earlier that like this feels like a lot of these hearings have an audience of one, and it's Merrick Garland, because they're trying to grab him by the collar and shake him to fucking get off his ass. Because prosecutors don't like to try cases unless they're slam dunks. They also don't like to try cases if they're high profile unless they're absolutely slam dunks. They don't want to get embarrassed.
Yeah.
So, thanks, Jay Forever.
Jay Forever. Mark's killing it today. Bow tie fascist. That's a new one for me.
Yeah. Remember the Nazis had the brown shirts. The Nazis also had a lot of judges. Right. So like they're working in concert.
Jason Gaudette says, shout out for the Dr. Teeth shirt, by the way. How about that?
Shout out Redbubble. Got off Redbubble. Love the shirt. Love the Muppets, baby. Love the Muppets. We should have been, honestly, if the entire Supreme Court was Sam the Eagle, we'd be better off.
Kim Cusado on Facebook says, Bill Barr fucked the entire country when he completely misrepresented the Mueller report.
Also, Robert Mueller fucked the country when he declined to come to a conclusion. He said, here's a bunch of we couldn't solve the first part of the investigation because they did all this cover-up stuff and lied to us so much.
Right.
And then nobody was punished for the lying or the covering up, except for they got a few small convictions, including whatchamacallit, who was pardoned.
Asasha 3 says, Barr was under oath. Every one of these guys were under oath. I wonder how being under oath changes your tone.
Yeah. I mean, when you're under oath, you're literally bargaining for your freedom. So you're not going to come out as Stratton and go be like, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you. Fake news. Right. It doesn't work in that scenario.
Randa Powers says, and Pence would not condemn Trump after January 6th. Yeah. Yeah, it was wild,
Yeah.
man. Fucking
Mike,
trying to
Mike
get his
Pence.
ass hung, and
Yeah.
he was still, got to toe that party line.
Mike Pence heard Trump making the hang Mike Pence case and said, "Well, we got to hear him out, folks."
Yeah, right. Yeah. He's done a lot of good for this country, okay?
Yeah.
Like, sure, he wants to have me lynched in front of the halls of Congress, but, I still support the platform. Mo RFD says Barr said he would vote for Trump again. Right. Yes,
Yep.
he did say that.
He did. He said because the much bigger threat to America is the progressive agenda.
See, that right there is what so much of it comes down to, in my opinion, is like, I think there are people out there, like conservatives out there, that are not on board with a lot of this shit or think this is too far or didn't like January 6th or whatever else, but that will still show up and vote Republican, I think, because they're more afraid of the evil, commie, queer, Democrat agenda, like or whatever. They think that's even worse. So, which
on the one
fucking
hand,
insane to me. But
on the one hand, you have totalitarianism, which eventually always sinks into corruption and a government that can't function, usually with mass death in between. On the other hand, there's one trans girl playing softball in Ohio.
Right. Yeah. So, yeah. And Dr. Seuss got canceled. So, Yeah. Yeah. You pick your battles.
By his own descendants. So.
The mighty Kennebec, Swan Island, 1724. That's a hell of a name. Says, I know one Trump supporter who has seen the light. January 6th opened his eyes. Now, after recent school shootings, he's for gun control. Just one. Sigh. Well, hey, at least there's one. No, yeah, I mean, I think, anecdotally, I hear sometimes of people that, coming around finally for one reason or another, but I just, I don't know if it'll be enough. It like the sheer numbers they still have is wild to me, but, it's just where we are. It's like you were saying, like it's so, right. Cool Ant 516 says, what's the 2000 Mules movie? I don't get it. Dinesh D'Souza put out a documentary trying to highlight the truth about the election being stolen, basically. Like, what were the details? But it, like, even like One American News and places like that wouldn't fuck with it because they didn't want to get like sued and shit.
Yeah.
And so he got all pissed off because even most of the other lunatics wouldn't like promote the movie because of how, baseless and shitty it was. But anyway.
For a Cliff Notes version of who Dinesh D'Souza is, he had a turn as a respectable conservative pundit, like during like the Clinton and George W. Bush years. Then he got publicly embarrassed when he went to a conference with his mistress and not his wife and got busted which is really cool in Christian rights circles. Then he got convicted of election fraud because what he did was he gave money to a bunch of different people's names and he spent a little bit of time in prison. Got out, became a borderline QAnon guy. Trump pardoned him. And if you want to know what kind of person he is, he was Fox News lady, Laura
Ingram.
He was Laura Ingram's college boyfriend at Dartmouth, and their main thing they did there was start a newspaper specifically to out kids who were gay. So they've been mean their whole lives.
The Lord's work.
He just put out a documentary about called 2000 Mules that allegedly proves the election was stolen and it has nothing in it. So you can rent it on Rumble, the conservative answer to YouTube for like $20, I think. I wouldn't bother. There's nothing to see in it. He has some grainy footage. It's like those videos of Bigfoot walking, except it's election workers with
right.
bags
and
of whatever.
You saw that was Bill Barr literally laughing at how stupid he found it to be.
Bill Barr literally went back into government, became Trump's AG because he was writing essentially Fox News letters to the editor about how the Russia investigation was a hoax. That's why he got hired. He's purely Fox News brain-pilled, and he thinks this movie's a joke.
Right, exactly. All right. Well, listen, again, some reminders there. Sorry about the fucking, hey, our first week back and we got technical shit. That's classic Skews for you. Hopefully we got it worked out in some regard. Anyway, remind you to go to TraeCrowder.com if you want to come see me live if I'm coming to your town soon. Also, you can get bonus episodes for $5 a month at weeklyskews.com/more. I go on Patreon, look me up, sign up. Yeah, Mark, what's up?
I was going to say, I know you guys are going to do well-read shows again, but right now it feels like when Zayn left One Direction.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, there will be. We're already booking well-read shows in the future,
Yeah.
but I'm gonna do this solo thing for a bit, and probably may switch it up going forward. But yeah, fret not. It will still be going down. But for now, go to TraeCrowder.com and come and see me as we're gonna have a good time. All right, this is Weekly Skews. Sorry for the bullshit. Thanks for being here. Love you. Bye.